بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So we were reflecting on the fertile soil of Mombasa, where you have a rich array of fruit and vegetables and different types of fruits and things that we'd never even wouldn't reach my hometown of Manchester. But that wasn't the only thing that was planted in Mombasa. Mombasa was, and the entire east coast of Africa was touched, was watered by a spiritual tradition which goes back to over 1400 years. An ancient tradition of community care, of community support, of education, of spiritual discipline and instruction, of encouragement, of taking care of not only people's social welfare, but the welfare of their hearts and their souls. That's what Habib Ahmed and the likes of Habib Ahmed bin Bashir al-Haddad came and planted in Mombasa. It was the ground was already fertile, and he came and he watered these seeds, and people that we've met now, like that live not too far from this mosque, their lives were transformed. They were moved so powerfully by this man who, as we know, like very rarely spoke. Habib Ahmed wasn't a man of, copious amounts of words, but when he did spoke, it moved people. And when he was quiet, it moved people. Because he was a person who was sincere and was authentic. He wasn't putting on a show. He was a person that was at ease with himself because there was no self, there was no ego. And being around people that have refined their souls and egos to such a capacity that they don't feel awkward around others. They don't look down upon others. They don't judge other people. Being around them is like being in paradise, seriously, with no exaggeration, because their hearts contain this kind of paradisial state whereby they're not soiled by greed or by anger or by lust or by hatred, and just as we were talking in previous episodes about unity, you can try and constrain the form and give everybody the same uniform, but unless people's hearts are in harmony, unity will never be achieved. And I find, a lot of the time we have in, where I'm from, like, there's a lot of talk about social cohesion, but that's pushing people in, and a lot of the time this causes like a social abrasion. People feel this is abrasive because their hearts aren't in sync, or hearts haven't reached the completion of that harmony. In Mombasa you have this, and okay, it's not sung and hailed throughout the rooftops that we're one of the few, if not only, living sources of social cohesion, whereby you have not only people from different racial backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds, but people of different religions and different lifestyles and different ways of viewing the world, that live not only in tolerance, because that's a very modern world, that we will tolerate you. Tolerate is just almost like to put up with someone. The tradition which came here, which fueled trade, which fueled education, which inspired creative the pursuit of true creativity, which inspired the architecture, which inspired the poetry of the land, which inspired all of these things. It was rooted in this seed, which was one of not only tolerance but love. Our Prophet ﷺ, he said, none of you believe, meaning there's no true completion of faith. Any claim of faith which is without this is not fully rooted. It's not giving fruits. None of you truly believe until you want for your brother that which you want for yourself. And that's not tolerance. You have to love someone, to love for your brother what you want for yourself. Habib Ahmed, the likes of Habib Umar bin Ahmed, who is his spiritual teacher and his guide and his instructor. He was a scholar. He was known all throughout East Africa. He imparted these meanings to Habib Ahmed. And Habib Ahmed took this on and continued. And you won't find him like adverts of Habib Ahmed on billboards in the streets of Mombasa. But you'll find people whose lives were transformed. And one of the stories of Habib Ahmed is that he was incapacitated physically for around 3 months. Why? Because he was on the road. It was a dangerous road and there was a car crash. But what was he doing? He was going to teach people. He was going to educate people. He was going to serve people. These people, they only saw themselves as servants of humanity. And when he was injured, he didn't say, well, maybe it's time to pack it up, call it a day. All this kind of going throughout in the outback of, the jungles and the rural areas of Kenya. Maybe we should pack it up. Look what I've done. Like he didn't say this. He was patient for 3 months with his leg, in the air in the hospital, but his call still continued through prayer and through good intention and people visiting him, and no doubt him welcoming them just in the same way as if there was nothing wrong. People would come to his house, and these people, they didn't know how to say no. They would just give, and that's why they were not only. The thing is, when we say a teacher and an educator, it wasn't this dry academic form of teaching. You can't misunderstand this. When Habib Ahmed came, look at his name. Like, we call our teachers Habib, beloved, like the one that we love. And that's not said because we're told, we're brainwashed. Because there is a lot. Because you look at them, you fall in love with them. And this was a part of the wiratha, the sacred inheritance of their great grandfather Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one that gazed upon him from a distance was initially in awe of him, and the awliya and the great saints of this tradition, when you look at them, they're awesome in the true meaning of the word. They're awe-inspiring, and it's not, we don't fear them, but there's a reverence which we have just by in this illumination, these illuminated beings. When they walk and when they talk, it carries this awesomeness about them. But when you spend time with them and you frequent their company, just as with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمَنْ خَالَتَهُ مَعْرِفَةً أَحَبَّ, and the one that literally mixed with them, if you start to mingle with them, so you get to know them, you fall in love with them. This was Habib Ahmed. His message was one of love. And it wasn't an empty, meaningless slogan type of love. It was a love which, to this day, when you mention Habib Ahmed, people will weep. That's a love when you yearn for someone, when you miss for someone. That's what the Sahaba tasted with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How do you understand that if it's not for these people? What greater legacy? You have the people of Kenya, the people of Mombasa have this legacy, and it's living and it's breathing, and you can experience it in the streets of places like Old Town. You can hear it in the spiritual chanting of the people of this tradition. You can see, we just came from a school with children, and this is like, they're there and with smiles on their face. And the amazing thing about children, they don't lie. Like if they're having a hard time, they're just supposed to be there, they'll let you know. But these children are there, they're singing the praises of the Prophet, and it's done with love. They want to be there. They know what that means, because they have hearts, and young hearts are not soiled by what they should appear to be like, how the world perceives them, how I should project myself, this kind of camouflage of perceived reality. They're just real. Kids just keep it real, and they're smiling and they're moving, and this is amazing. What an incredible legacy, what an incredible tradition. Like, hold on to this and be a means to support this. And we're not just talking about finance here. We don't care about this. We're talking about be somebody who sacrifices something of meaning. Sacrifice means to give up something for the sake of the real, al-haq, subhanahu wa ta'ala. What have we given up? What have we contributed to serve in this tradition which is worth preserving? You know, there are some of the old buildings in Old Town, and they say they've been, you know, restored. That's wonderful, because of that restoration, we thank the people that do that, because we're able to sit against this wall today for this reason. However, that which really needs restoring, reviving, replenishing, renewing, is the very meanings and the purpose and the intentions for which the buildings like this were built. That's what Habib Ahmed came. They ultimately didn't come to build the outward edifice. They came to flourish, you know, and be a means to flourish, and be a means to spread this light within people's hearts. To this day, we're only sat in their blessing, their barakah. So may Allah, we ask that God, you know, preserves this in this land, this living tradition, and it's a great honor to be here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.